A company just starting out, though, or just starting to get into any kind of financial, first off, the owner or the visionary, whoever's leading it, needs to be able to articulate what they would consider success or what the goal is for growth in the next year. Because unless there's like revenue and net profit goals to work backwards off of, it's very hard to set goals or affect any meaningful change. The thing had stayed status quo, but it didn't really grow at all because that's just not where these clients really are coming from. You're not getting the $70,000, $80,000 lake house because you had a Facebook ad. Maybe you'll get more calls. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Marketing works. It wasn't, what we were using was not hitting our target demographic.
Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business. Chance Peare, how are you today?
Very well, sir. How about yourself?
Awesome, man. SkyRight Roofing and Gutters, up in the mountains. You guys are not in one of the largest markets of the country, not in the huge population centers, but have grown a really great company. Tell us a little bit about your journey into roofing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, SkyRight, being up in Sandpoint's great. Small little community, but a good community. For me, I actually entered it doing door-to-door sales before I started here. Did that for a little while as we came to the geographic move. As you said, not a big population center. So if you want a well-paying job, you got to keep your options open. Landed on that for a while and then saw this opportunity up in Sandpoint, which I was like, oh, even smaller market. How are they going to afford to pay someone well to do this? Got up with Jorn when this company was still pretty small, but with a strong owner-led vision on, high quality products, work done really, really well, not being the cheapest, selling on value. And it's been really interesting to just watch it blow up over the last couple of years to where it's at today.
So how has your role transitioned over the time you've been there?
Yeah. I started as a project manager. That's what we called it at the time, but came in. Jorn had recently just switched from all being fully in-house, him on the roof, probably 20 local guys working, to as you grow, the switch most people make, which is subcontracting the shingles. So that switch had been actually right before I started. So the process of, how are we doing work orders? Who's doing the material orders? Who's contacting the customer? Who's addressing customer concerns? The site supervisor being there. Are they watching one job? Are they watching multiple jobs? That whole system was still really getting built. So the project manager was a pretty broad title.
Yeah.
I did that for, the beginning of the season and quickly kind of got into more the financial part of it as well. And the future planning, just looking at the growth, it was pretty clear it was going to be growing rapidly and we needed some structures in place. So I switched probably fall of that year. So maybe 6 months into the COO position and kind of started sculpting. We pushed through that year with me still doing the project management role as the 80%, with the other 80% of the time building out the systems and structures with Jordan to get it all set up. But that winter, we knew we had a plan for the next season, so we replaced that role, actually the PM role, with 3 roles. The production coordinator, the handles the scheduling, ordering of materials, things of that nature. The operations manager, the main boss who's overseeing all the crews, any problems with customers, things of that nature. And then a field manager to actually manage the site supers and directly manage the sub crews. And then the next season, we just grew so much that even that was kind of inadequate. So you go through, seasonal business,
Yeah.
you go through all that winter planning. We have this bomb-proof plan, but we're going to throw a little wrench in it. Chance is also going to kick off the new construction commercial division. We're going to try out a new revenue source, and we're going to buy a commercial property, completely move shops, also take metal in-house, get our own roll former, start making all our own trims. Just a couple small tweaks to our previous system.
Couple small tweaks.
Yeah,
just a couple
what
small
could
tweaks.
possibly go wrong there? The production team still, there's still some resentment. I think they've moved on through this winter, but it was a long season, to say the least. Our revenues more than doubled from the plan we had made with the team, so it was a push getting here. But
It's a push. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like, so this is the evolution of a company, right? It's the, phase one, do something, then you're okay. We got that implemented. Now we're moving on to the next thing. What were some of the things that you put in place during that time that were effective, that helped the growth?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the biggest one when we actually got to the point of letting go of some of the control was almost breaking it up into pretty clear silos. I mean, you call it the accountability chart, the org chart, however you want to label it, making sure that roles were clearly defined. Because as we grew, I noticed immediately that was probably one of our biggest problems is like a Chance had done this forever or Lauren's done this forever. And then once you bring on a new role, it's in your head pretty clear that that role is now absorbing that. But unless it's like trained, documented, and actually like if the one person just continues doing it because they were already good at it, you can go 6 months and realize like, wow, our bookkeeper's not actually even entering the bills. Someone's still doing the bills because they've always done it. Um, so getting that actually on paper, documented, and starting to, I mean, almost a little bit more bureaucratic you have to be with your hiring and your job descriptions and the training materials you give those people, and just having it be pretty rigid, even if that is more burdensome than some people would like. You really got to get there when you're above probably 10, 15 people. 10 office people is a lot of different processes to be managing and juggling. So that was probably the biggest thing I saw that worked for us, was actually just being very clear what people did and then making sure that they two-way conversation, were clear on what they did, stuff they weren't trained on or didn't have documentation. They don't even have the login to get into something they're supposed to be doing. Just actually really formalizing how that all works and then making sure one person is actually doing all the hiring and onboarding. Because if you have one person who brought in a guy on the weekend, got them all hired, paperwork's not in order,
Mm,
it gets really messy fast.
That's a lot. That could get messy fast for sure. So it sounds like you kind of started with an org chart, or accountability chart, like you said, however you want to frame it. You're saying, okay, we have to start to really map out who's doing what, so that we're not repeating process, we're not overlapping, we're creating efficiency. Probably internal communication, I would assume, is happening. The handoffs are happening properly. What what was the most challenging part of getting that implemented?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's two parts of it I found to be really challenging. One is that, we'll just use sales and production as a classic one. It could be kitchens where I came front and back of house. The model is the same almost everywhere. You're going to have multiple factions who have, we're all pushing and pulling in the same direction to get the company meet the vision, but what looks like success might be a little different on the sales side as opposed to the production side. If you want the sales guy to have a 25-step photo documentation process because that's what production needs, he's going to push back that it adds friction to his sales process. And it's like, you have the vicious circle of trying to, especially at a high level leadership, trying to balance what makes both parties happy, but still is getting kind of the result you want.
Yeah.
I found that to be pretty challenging, to make sure everyone was appeased in a way that you would actually get good buy-in. And then probably rolling it out past mid management. I found that to be really challenging, especially in the blue collar space. If you have paperwork or things that are not in a traditional labor role in the field and now you're adding these steps to them, that can be pretty hard to get by. In general, I've found is to get, your roofing installer, even to fill out a pay sheet that gets him paid is surprisingly hard. So a lot of bottlenecks we'd have to put in place there for sales and for the field crews. I mean, if that paperwork's not done, that's their pay. So they're not eligible for their commission or their piece rate until the job forms were filled out. I found that had a pretty good impact. I found that went well.
Yeah. That was kind of where my next question was going, is like, how did you incentivize them to be in alignment like that and to get you guys what you needed? It sounds like I mean, it's carrot or stick, right? And so I mean, I guess the paycheck could be the carrot or the stick, right? Like, it's like, get this done or else you're not getting this.
Correct. Yeah.
A-
The carrot stick
and
combo.
yeah, the carrot stick combo. It's like, it works. And talk to a lot of contractors that that I feel like they what's the old analogy? Um the patients are running the mental institution or something like that,
Oh
like
yeah.
something to that effect, right? Like where it's like we let the we can't let the team just go wild and do whatever they want. We have to keep everyone aligned and like and so to do that, you have the character stick. What was the how did you run into any resistance there that you were like, look, it's either you find another place to work or you do this, or did everyone just kind of eventually buy in?
Yeah, no, I would say that, I mean, we are pretty picky on our like hiring and in general, kind of how we bring on people. So from the office side, I would say no, we didn't really get any that were to that point because the culture was already pretty strong there. Field wise, no one actually had to get let go because of it. Probably people who were let go anyways, just based on performance, wouldn't have made the cut on doing it. So that kind of weeds itself out. But no, eventually everyone got there. It was getting to that point though, where we're like, oh, at this point, like it's part of your job duties. It's part of doing your job.
It's
Like you show up every day on time, you do everything else we ask you. It's part of the job. Sorry that it sucks, but
it's
do your form.
yeah, fill the form out,
Yeah.
do the checklist, right? Like, here's the
Yep.
photo report. Here are the photos we require when you
Yep.
go out onto a job site. Like, these are for the sales rep, for the job site supervisor, for the whoever, right? Like, here are your checklists, and and your compensation is dependent on you doing your job.
Yeah.
How was it? That makes me kind of think back to the development of the roles and responsibilities. Was that Did you guys clearly outline that as you were kind of building out the roles and responsibilities of the team members?
I would say we failed on that part for a long time. That was probably the
Yeah.
last. We've gotten a lot better at it as the team has grown, and we've got some. I mean, I don't know what you'd call me, the king of like the 80%. Jordan's got 1,000 ideas. I'll decipher them. I'll handle a lot of the actions, and then I'll leave it at this last point. And I expect the crew, who's always been so good to us, to just see it to that 100%, which I'm sure they love with a ever-lying passion. So we would just get, Jordan would be like, oh, yep, we're going to need a couple more trucks. We're going to need this person, this person. We'd throw together something. I'd get job description out there like, oh, cool. Middle manager, she'll be the direct reports. You handle an interview. Someone will get hired. They'll come in. And then 2 months later, we'd be doing reviews and stuff and be like, well, the job, like who came up with this role? Like this isn't clear at all. Half this stuff. Yeah. We're missing half of their job here. And then they have questions. We got a lot of, pointed feedback, I would say, on that being
Okay.
a lacking strength. So we put a lot of emphasis into actually really trying to make those clear and encompassing. And then when we actually do the interviews, being even clear beyond that, like, hey, we probably missed a lot. This is where we lack an organization. You're going to, your role will be anything that might come up 2 months from now that helps us in your scope of work at all make the company better. And just really leaning into that being part of our culture, that we're always learning, evolving, and like working as a
Mm.
team, so that people who do get on the bus are hopefully in the right seat and killing it at what they do, but that we also don't really have that feeling in the office where people don't mind pitching in and helping, which has helped a lot because as we grow, some of these roles semi-define themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the team culture that you have to build where, hey, we're all learning at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
find a problem, we'll fix it together. If you can find a problem and fix it even better, like, let's just keep building on this thing that we're building. It's not over. And I'm sure you guys are, I think if I remember right, you guys are now into like an 8-figure kind of top line area.
Right.
So you must be done with all of this by now.
Excuse me. Yeah, I like to think that. I mean, me and the owner go over that. I swear every other month, like, oh, cool, cash flows. Like, good. We got that one licked. We got a good residential flow picking up. The commercial slow payments, like cash flow is great. We'll get through that. And then we'll be like, oh, and the sales guy, he's quitting. Okay, well, like there's always, it doesn't matter what size company you get to, could be, you have different problems of different magnitudes. It seems like it's never
Yeah.
ending though. I would assume that's the same for any company.
It Yeah, I definitely say it, sarcastically, because I can't imagine that, the new trillion-dollar companies that are out there, like NVIDIA and probably SpaceX here soon and all the I can't imagine that they're not going through the same stuff, right? Like that it doesn't matter where you're at, Walmart's, the GEs, all of the companies are going through the exact same thing. It's a constant evolution of the process. Let's talk about that evolution. Let's go back to those days when you first came on board. What was what was the focus of SkyRight and how has that evolved? Like what was the business of SkyRight and how has the business of SkyRight evolved?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so pre me, we'll go back to the beginning. Summit Exteriors was the original, still our LLC. Siding, gutters, roofing, did all three, all in-house labor, um, strictly pretty much residential, homeowner, very high-end lake homes, things on Schweitzer, larger, higher margin projects. And that was kind of the bread and butter. That went very successfully for a season. One large commercial job because no one else bid a big metal siding job on a hotel. So that ended up just kind of thrown in. We'll call that the outlier, but it was a residential company focused on high margin residential work. That grew, the demand was huge. So before I even started, that grew very, very quickly, faster than Jordan could even keep up with hiring and training in-house roofers. So the roofing side switched over to sub work. The siding just kind of got cut and focus on the one, roofing in and out quickly, good margins. Siding, for a lot of people who've done it on here, probably, the projects take longer. They're more prone to, it's just an easier thing to mess up in terms of quoting it and running it efficiently. It requires a lot of good labor to go smoothly. So when I started, it was sub shingle work. We'd cut metal. That was pretty much our focus. We did high margin retail jobs in a very small market. So there's only so many multi-million dollar lake houses getting a re-roof each season. Like if you do 100 of them one year, that's 100 less that are calling you when they come to their vacation house next year. So the scalability and growth was somewhat limited in the sense that we didn't really do much paid marketing. Good brand awareness, good brand, but you got a very small geographic reach. We had one branch in a very small town. So that winter, we'd had a very good year. Right before I started, I came in fall with kind of the planning phase. Like Jordan knew we wanted the next level of growth. We're planning, we're building out all these systems, planning all this marketing. Just a bombshell of a year. I want to say we spent 300,000 on marketing or something on a $3 million year. I mean, it was bad. So we made the decision not to market anymore after that, except for brand awareness. So now we've completely gotten away from any kind of paid ads, but we'll fast forward through that whole year. Went well. Homeowners got roofs. The margins on what we sold. I mean, the thing had stayed status quo, but it didn't really grow at all because that's just not where these clients really are coming from. You're not getting the $70,000, $80,000 lake house because you had a Facebook ad. Maybe you'll get more
Yeah.
calls. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Marketing works. It wasn't, what we were using was not hitting our target demographic, our ideal customer. So we looked at other options come the next fall. Like, hey, we don't have another season where we don't grow like that. We've already brought on these, we've started the production team. We've made these plans for growth. So we started looking into new construction commercial. And I was like, hey, I'll spearhead that. Like we reach out to builders, get on the list. Turns out it's literally as simple as just reaching out and asking to get added to a list. Pretty mind blowing that that's the process, but it's really what it comes down to most of the time. And then we fast forward to spring of last year, it just blew up. We'd already sold a couple million, almost more than we sold residential last year during the winter in our slowest season, had our whole year pretty much booked out. Oh, I forgot the other kicker. So the metal shop we brought on, we did the move. We switched into new construction commercial and we decided to start bringing up visa workers. So H-2B workers, bringing up licensed visa workers. It's own level of paperwork burden that you have to deal with. We house them, but we have stable workers who come up here. We have a guy who grew up in Mexico. One of our standing seam guys is American, speaks fluent Spanish. He's going to train them all. He's also our production manager running all of production. So what could possibly happen? He's got plentiful free time. So this plan was just killer. The guys get up here, obviously take forever to train. The guy who's training him has no time to train him because he's running all of production. So I think that story probably tells itself. That went really slowly. We were bidding them by the man hour, not by the square. So, a 1 week project takes 1 month. It was a rough season of learning experiences. But that's kind of the path we went through. I mean, in all that, we continued, now we have the shop built out. Now we have Square Pay built out for the H2B guys. Now we have a good, huge pipeline of commercial that comes in. So it ended us in a really good place. Moral of the story, I guess, is a lot of hard lessons to get there about those stages of growth.
For sure. What was the initial kind of driver behind adding these other, like adding the service offerings that you did and, bringing building the metal shop and doing all of those? Was it just like this? Was it very clear that this is the next right thing to do? Or was it, let's tiptoe into this? How did those decisions get made?
Yeah. So on the diversification, the revenue stream thing, that was essentially Jordan and I mean, we do weekly meetings, quarterly meetings, that's our annual planning meeting. In the first season, we were griping about the marketing costs for not much growth. We're like, we don't want to do that again. We know, that's one of the 3 options. We don't really like it. Option number 2 is we do a geographic expansion. So I ran cost benefit analysis on opening up. There's some similar areas near us that are our same niche client. We could expand in that sense, open a little satellite office. We have a model that works. Or then stay in your local geographic market, no travel, but look at a different source, the new construction commercial, instead of, lower margin, higher volume, more controllable. And we just picked, once we picked it, we committed it, and it quickly proved itself. So we put the other 2 to the side. The metal shop, that was just, it's a fantastic choice. Everyone should do it that does a lot of standing seam. How we did it was not great, though. We had discussed that it was a plan for probably a year out. We knew the savings were good, knew the customization of like not having to wait for roll dates. We can show up, have the roof peeled. We can roll our panels right there while we bring our own trims. We can be in and out of a standing seam roof in a day or 2 instead of waiting weeks after drying. So it's very efficient. It gives us a lot of control over it. But we moved forward that plan because the commercial property came up. That was such a good deal. Like, got a very great opportunity for a large acre lot right on the airport. And we're like, well, now we have this giant shop. We might as well move the metal forward a season, put that money out. We'll get a whole nother season of savings. True, in theory, but trying to learn how to run the metal machine, hire the metal machine people while you're also training the new in-house metal, it was some bad decision making. We jumped the gun.
It's a lot. It's a lot of learning, right? Like, that's the thing that I say this often on the podcast, but we got to give ourselves a little grace sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know everything, right? So this is part of the journey for sure. So you bought the building, and we're like, hey, we have room, so let's move this timeline.
Why not just get the machine ordered?
Why not?
That way we have it all at the same time. We're ready to go.
That's right. That's right. Why not invest a lot more money on top of the building?
Exactly. Yeah. And then in turn, that means we have to increase cash flow to pay for all this. So now we just need to operate at twice the level we were operating at with a bunch of new variables.
That's all.
Yeah.
No biggie. Yeah. No biggie. Easy stuff, right?
We built a strong team in that time. That's for sure.
Okay, that was where the bonds were built in the team.
I would say so.
It sounds like the commercial, not the building that you guys bought, but getting into commercial, that was like, hey, we're in this area, let's expand this direction. And it sounds like it was fairly easy to enter the space from a sales perspective. It was like, hey, we're making some phone calls and we're getting on lists, on vendor lists. Like, is that as easy as it was? What was the like? How did the commercial side of the business start to get some traction?
Yeah, I would say honestly, it is really that simple. If you're talking, we're pretty small. We lump commercial and new construction, and we just call it all commercial. If you're
Okay,
talking like
got it.
residential new construction, yeah, those are more call, check in with them, just ask. There's more loyalty in that game. So a lot of those people might have a roofer they've used for 10 years. It can be harder to
Yep.
get on those lists sometimes. But the true commercial, yeah, normally the guys are big enough where there's even just a form on their website you can go click and like fill out a couple pieces of paper, and then you're added to the email distribution list. A lot of it's like regional plan centers. You can just see like the big public works or any jobs that are going on that are going to a regional plan center. You can see all the GCs who are bidding on it, submit your bid to all of them. Um, I was pretty shocked. I mean, I just spend a couple hours a month signing up for these sites, and we get dozens of requests a week sometimes that just come right to you with no marketing costs.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's when it actually comes to like performing, invoicing, and estimating the work, it's a completely different skill set because the person has to be able to interpret plans. They have to be comfortable having communications with general contractors on specs, things of that nature. But the like getting the requests for a bid is very, very easy. I was shocked. In fact, you could grow it. We're in a small community, and I feel like you could probably double or triple what we're doing now if you wanted to put the man hours behind it.
Yeah. And so that's interesting to me because, like, a lot of people don't like, where do I start? Well, do I start calling, like, property managers? Who do I
Right.
what
Tried
do I
that.
start
Horrible.
with? Or,
Yeah.
and that seems to be where a lot of, where I hear a lot of people going towards, right, in that regard. Um, what I'm hearing from you and where people could start is just get the opportunity to bid. Start with just getting the opportunity to bid, the sites, the getting on the list of the contractors, the municipalities, whoever is requesting the bids. But now there's a bid process, right? Explain the bid process for someone who's never been through it and maybe some tips and tricks around that.
Before we carry on with the episode, let's give a shout out to one of our sponsors. Roofers, let's get real. You're great at building roofs, but are you great at building a steady stream of leads? That's where Job Nimbus Marketing comes in. They know the roofing industry inside and out, and they'll help you dominate Google, Facebook, reputation management, and everything in between. If you want more quality leads, more booked jobs, and more growth, visit the link in the description or the sponsors page on the Roofing Success Podcast website. I talk to contractors every day that feel stuck. Not because they're not working hard, but because they're missing the structure to growth without chaos. Or their culture's falling apart because their team's unclear, unaligned, or just burned out. And when change hits, they're reacting instead of leading because time and priorities aren't under their control. Day 41 Thrive helps to fix that with proven strategies for growth, culture, and leadership that actually work. Ready to thrive beyond the storm? Visit the link in the description or visit the Roofing Success Podcast website on the sponsors page to start your journey today. If you're running roofing crews, you know the Friday afternoon headache. You're stuck chasing down crumpled gas receipts, wondering why the fuel bill is $400 higher than it should be this week? Check out our sponsor, Coast. Coast is perfect for the roofing business owner who's tired of pin sharing and gas station detours. Since it's a Visa, your guys can stop anywhere Visa is accepted, choosing the most efficient route so no more driving 5 miles out of the way just to find a specific brand of pump while the sun is burning daylight. Click the link in the description to get started with Coast today. The Coast Visa commercial credit card is issued by Celtic Bank, subject to credit approval. Results may vary.
Explain the bid process for someone who's never been through it and maybe some tips and tricks around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that one, I mean, before you really dive into it, first off, I mean, you have to evaluate like what scopes you're even going to look at. That way you're not kind of going down the rabbit hole. I mean, at this point,
Yeah.
we'll look at metal siding, metal soffits, sometimes wood siding, sometimes hardy siding if it's big enough, flat roofing, shingle roofing, metal roofing. So I'm confident on bidding all the scopes of it. So I dig pretty deep into it. But if you're just going to be looking at shingle apartments or shingle schools, you don't have any membrane experience, or you just do metal, you're just looking at those kind of projects. The first thing I do is, I mean, you're normally going to get some form of email. You might get added to Procore depending on what the company is, but normally there'll just be an email that comes out on an automated list, request for proposal on this building, due date is X date, link to the plans, and, hop in there really quickly. I scroll through it and I just look, what is the scope? Is it a new building? Is it a remodel? Is it my kind of scope? Is it the size we could work on? If you pull it up and it's a 1,000 square school and the biggest you've ever done is a 60 square house, you probably
Yeah.
take semi baby steps and stay kind of within what you're comfortable on. And then looking at what type of bid it is. Is it a public works project? Is it a prevailing wage job? Is it federal government work? Is it just a normal vanilla commercial project might as well be a homeowner with a stricter spec book? um, Once you kind of have those, first thing I do, especially when you're starting out, is there'll be the contact information for who sent it to you on there. I reach out and I ask that project manager, like I introduce myself. I ask, oh, timeline. Okay, cool. This is a competitive bid. You guys don't have it yet. It's getting bid by 3 other people. That way you kind of know the lay of the land, what's happening. They'll be able to give you normally a timeline. Is it firm off the specs and the plans, or is it like best bid wins? We just want something affordable. You'll kind of get those questions that apply to your scope and start feeling it out. But I want to know all that before I put in any time. If it's, ballpark numbers, this is super tentative. You don't put the same effort into it, obviously. If, hey, this is a sure deal, we're breaking ground in 2 weeks, we need a guy. You'll actually know what you're looking at then. And I would say line up a good relationship with your suppliers. I mean, whoever you're using, ABC, Beacon, Stoneway, I mean, whoever it might be. Before you even really get into this, you should be sitting down, having lunch with that person, going over, are you an OC person, a GAF, ICO? Maybe you run one thing for residential, but in your territory, GEF will give 70 a square shingle for big multifamily units. Find out who wants to play ball on the commercial stuff and on pricing. Get with your supplier and get all those ducks in a row. That way, when you're starting to look at the bids, you already know, I'm not going to be bidding my 120 a square duration number on a school. This is coming semi truck straight from the factory. They're dropping it off. My supplier's going to bring down a couple boom trucks. There's different pricing re-rate. The structure is completely different when you're working on jobs of these size. So don't just go in expecting to win it with your numbers for doing a stormwork house. It's a different ball game. That's honestly really it. At that point, you can upload it into, like, depending on their comfort level with plans. If they have no comfort level with plans, then I would say maybe either hire like an estimator. You could be the point man. You can get all this locked down, pay someone a couple grand a month, either overseas or a little bit more locally. Pay an estimator who does this all day, and they just get paid a salary and just knock out estimates. You close deals, you order material. There's a few ways to split that. If you want to do it yourself, get some experience on plan reading, whether it's some online courses, local community college, networking groups, even probably YouTube videos and stuff will at least show you the details and things of like you don't want to be missing details if you're quoting new construction. But beyond that, you can send it off for takeoffs, use your roof scope or hover, whoever you might use. You can just upload the plans, tell them if you want roofing, siding. They'll do a breakdown for you. Most of the supply houses will do the same thing depending on what you're looking for. Bigger ones, I would say the spec book. That's obviously missed. There's the plans that you're visually seeing, and then there's normally a book, an architectural manual or a specification guide. Sometimes it's 700-800 pages long. Most of it is not critical at all to your scope. So on the cover page, the very beginning of it, they'll be going through the divisions. Generally, people who are listening to this are probably all going to live in Division 7, waterproofing. So that's going to be wall panels, roof panels. It'll tell you if it's TPO or built up. You'll be able to quickly see the scopes that fall under that in the table of context and scroll and be like, okay, we like wall panels and roof panels and shingles. Like, I'm going to look at the spec on each one of those. And then, you can either put it into AI or read it yourself or pay the estimator. How you exactly do that doesn't matter too much as long as you have a good system. You should probably know how to read it yourself before trusting someone else. That way you can at least trust but verify. But going through that, you'll be able to quickly see like approved manufacturer. I know I can use Tamco or GAF or OC. You'll be able to see what shingle is spec'd if they have a basis for design, what the warranty terms need to be, and make sure you can actually meet the terms of this contract. If you can't, you have a couple options. I mean, you could reach straight out to the PM or the architect and like, can I get this shingle approved as an alternate? This is who I'm certified with. Or for this membrane, can we use GAF instead of Carlisle? I can offer the same warranty. Generally, as long as the products are considered apples to apples or meet the same specs, you can get alternates added as long as you're doing it a week, 2 weeks in advance and not waiting till the last minute. That's all of it in a nutshell, honestly. It makes it sound fairly simple, which it is actually fairly simple. It just requires
can be.
attention to
It
detail.
sounds that's fantastic. That was a fantastic explanation for people, I think, listening. That it's like to not overcomplicate things, right? Like we need to get the opportunity to bid. Need to know what you're bidding, right? So you're looking at the bid, the spec sheet, your the plans, the spec sheet. You're looking at, is this a project that we can successfully accomplish? We're going to our suppliers and having conversations even previous to bidding, saying, "Hey, I'm going to start doing this work. I'm going down this direction. Like, where are we? Let me get some pricing on that side. Like, this is different, right?" So then now we're moving into having an estimator or making sure that you can properly estimate these projects and submit your bids. How do you win them? Like, or do you guys just do sheer volume and you go, "Hey, look, we're just going to bid it at our price, at our margins. We're like, this is what we bid at. Go estimate this project. These are the margins that we need to accomplish, Mr. Estimator. Bid it this way. Like, bid it to this, and if we get it, we get it. If we don't, we bid again." Where's your mindset on that?
Yeah, I mean, mine definitely is. I mean, we're margin based. That's how I pretty much operate everything. I would say that'll probably follow the individual company's general sales strategy. If they're salespeople always sell at 45, 42, that's what they do. They have X% of wiggle room. However you operate that, generally, you can mimic the same thing. We had a pretty strict, I mean, we like to hit, a 45, whatever it may be for residential. It took a little bit of, figuring out, is it 40? Is it 35? Is it 30? Like, what are we winning consistently, but not too much on? And we just landed on a number. We just keep it at a consistent margin. I'll bid them all at the same margin, labor and materials. If a project exceeds, if I'm talking $500,000, $750,000 project, like it's a very, very large project, that might come down a little more because of the volume. Exactly. If you have 9 months of consistent work that you're only having to plan once, essentially, that's worth a couple less percent points to me. So, I mean, that gets into more of a financial modeling decision for the owner or the operations manager to really kind of look at, are they a volume versus margin? What resources and overhead is it going to take us to like orchestrate this? And then really, you just got to be getting bid results. Mostly with the commercial guys, you have a pretty good opportunity as long as you're polite, cordial the whole time, be respectful, give them the information they need. When you're bidding on these things, it's not unusual at all to ask for bid results. And you'll normally get something back like, oh, SkyRight was 82, Granite was 85, so-and-so was 88. You're like, okay, I won by $3,000. Like we won. I'm stoked by winning by $3,000. I've had some where I was like, wow, we were $20,000 low. Like that's probably, we could probably bring it up a couple points here. Now I know our membrane is low. Or you'll get it back and you'll be twice the other guy. And you'll be like, okay, we're not bidding Hardy apartment complexes. Apparently we don't have the crews or supplier for Hardy apartment complexes. Now we know. And you'll just use that as kind of your benchmark. So, I mean, if you're consistently winning at these numbers and you're happy with the margins, like don't try and rework the wheel. Like build the name for yourself, establish that. I don't try and crank it 1 or 2% and start getting greedy. I'd rather have a consistent pricing and we win them, we win them, we don't. You're going to build a good reputation that way. And then, I mean, you'll have the projects then, especially when you're doing the new construction, not as much commercial, where you can be a little higher, but they know you're going to perform. So then, like, you get some of that back on the front end, at least with the custom home builders and things of that nature. If you're doing tract developments in commercial, those are pretty much dollar-driven commodities at that point.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about the other day when we were chatting, about knowing your numbers. you know, I think that means different things to a lot of people. What does knowing your numbers mean to you and I, what in your management of the company, and what do you see other contractors missing a lot of times?
Yeah. No, I mean, to me, I I think it needs to be very holistic, at least for the upper management of the company. I mean, I want to know gross. I want to know exactly how COGS is breaking down, not just a lump percentage of COGS. I want to see it month to month based on division. I want to know actually our overhead. I want to be looking at that in advance and seeing quarterly, monthly how we're doing against the pro formas and the numbers we set. Do we actually have budgets? Are we watching percentage points and looking for that $500 a month slip that just continues to build up? And then job by job costing. What I see pretty commonly, and I don't know exactly what causes it, but we'll have an estimating system and we're selling at our 40%. And I feel like a lot of the time the no one except for whoever set that up, maybe the owner or an upper manager, really understands what that 40% means and like what the impact. Like, I think everyone should have the gross margin and COGS talk when they get hired at any company that deals with
Mm.
production or selling, so they kind of have some understanding of what happens and that 40% then gets spent like overhead and commissions, and like they don't have to understand what your net profit goals are for the company, but if they at least the company is not making 40% on a 40% bid and like had a real view of how the money got broken down, I find that to be pretty helpful. um but it gets estimated at this amount. That's what we assume we make, and that's kind of the end of it. At the end of the day, we do, we pay all our subs, we pay our suppliers, we have X amount left over, and then we're just running off a bank balance and the monthly P&L, and we're not really digging into job by job costing. I think every single job should have the labor and materials attached to it. You don't have to go so far as doing like weighted allocation of overhead to each job. If you're running bigger commercial, I do think you should be going that far. But for a standard residential company, at bare minimum, labor and materials should get costed on each job after the job is done and check true cost variance versus what you quoted it at. Because if you're falling consistently within 1 or 2% either way, that's great. I would consider that very successful in the trades with returns, overage, waste. But if you're consistently seeing 4 or 5 point drops high or low, you're going to have some kind of trend that you can improve on and save tens, if not hundreds of thousands sometimes. The amount that COGS can really take money right out of your pocket is pretty wild.
What do you think slips the fastest? What gets out of control quickly?
I would say both the labor and materials, because I mean, the estimating systems generally, some of them you can connect to your suppliers and things of that nature, but even that's only as good as your salesperson putting in a proper contract that's actually going into their system and not getting credited on the back end. There's so many moving parts there. But I mean, right now we'll deal with shingle increases going out. I think June 1st, there's one. There'll be another one likely in August, possibly one in the fall. I mean, you get numerous material increases throughout the year, let alone talk steel roofing, which is more of a commodity. And it goes every time you order panels, it could be a different price. Every time I order coil, it could be a different price. So, who's actually keeping that system alive and fresh so that your salespeople aren't quoting off 6 months ago's pricing, or they're quoting a job they know is not going out for 9 months when we're going to get 2 price increases with no language in your contract to come back for that? That's where I think you see the biggest thing, because the subs generally, I mean, prices go up, but I would say maybe they give you a new price list every year, maybe never. I mean, so that might go up a little bit, but you're not seeing crazy. They're not charging twice as much for shingles week to week. It's pretty consistent. But the material itself, I think, gets very stale, left in the system too long, and then you're quoting at old numbers. And I mean, your margin's already eroded at that point, and you're just continuing to pile it on there. So some system to audit your price lists, ensure that it's fresh, and actually watch it on a job by job basis.
So that's an interesting one. I was having a conversation a couple weeks ago about the average time to from sales presentation to close job, and everyone wants that it closes and it's in production within a very short amount of time, but it doesn't happen like that. Oh, right? Like, do you guys have you ever like looked at that and said, man, and I would assume, especially on the other side, the new construction side, when
Oh.
you guys are putting out bids, right? Like there's even more variance in that, or it's a longer process. Um, what do you do to, do you factor that into your projections? How we know the price increases are coming.
Yeah.
Do you start bidding those price increases now, estimating like, or just say, well, we'll just wait for it. And then, but you did say language in the contract also, right? Was
Yeah.
another aspect of it. So speak to that a little bit. What are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'd say you got to have all three approaches there. You got to have language
Yeah.
in all your contracts, no matter what, saying, this is valid at this current price, material increases, whatever your wording may be. You need to have some coverage there because that's completely outside of your control. Same goes for your commercial projects and things of that nature. You have it clearly agreed upon in advance what is covered, what is not covered, how long it's good for, what counts as a change order. And then for your actual, I don't generally, if I'm doing a commercial quote that might not go on for 6 months to a year, I normally do not factor any kind of increases into it because a couple of things can happen. Either if I have the project in contract by the price increase date, I can generally work with a supplier to get the material ordered in advance and warehoused, something along those nature. Or they will agree to refresh the quote 30 days before they actually plan on commencing. So like that'll be their placeholder budgetary number. It's awarded to you as the low at that point, and then it'll get freshened up. And I mean, if your price increase was more dramatic than someone else's, potentially you lose it then, a risk you have. But the retail end, I just get in front of it. As soon as I hear there's going to be a price increase, I automatically apply it to our quoting system on the front end, because by the time it sells in 2 weeks, if it's a June 1st, I mean, the shingles aren't getting shipped out before then. So it's already, we don't use it like a sales tactic to try and, sign now to get, as soon as I know it's coming, it just gets rolled into estimating from that point forward.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about like budgeting and forecasting. I think that is something that contractors don't do, and use that you've really dug into and put a process and systems in place to do this. And what a lot of contractors live by the cash in the bank. They're not even looking forward, right? They're barely looking at their gross margins. They're throwing numbers out there. To me, a lot of contractors price arbitrarily. They don't actually build their gross margin properly and sell at what they should be selling at, or what they need to be selling at to do a good job. How do you look at budgeting and forecasting and putting that plan together to see into the future a little bit and be prepared?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the way I do it, because we've been fairly established for a while, is a pretty consistent system. I mean, every fall, I do pro forma statements off of like where we did this year. I'll get with the owner, Jordan, and see kind of what his vision for growth is. Does he want to see 20%, 50%? Are we doubling again? Are we talking about any new business sectors, things of that I should factor for? And then I'll forecast the whole numbers advanced to P&L, balance sheet, break-even analysis based on those numbers and those growth numbers. And then I'll also look at where I expect costs to go up, costs to go down, where we need to work on, adjust those numbers and look at what it would actually take in terms of percentages and dollars to meet those goals, with actionable items on the ones that aren't going to happen by themselves. You can't just say, I'm going to chop 2% off cost of goods sold and then hope that it goes away. I mean, there needs to be educated guesses with actions planned behind them, essentially, is how I would phrase it. A company just starting out, though, or just starting to get into any kind of financial, first off, the owner or the visionary, whoever's leading it, needs to be able to articulate what they would consider success or what the goal is for growth in the next year. Because unless there's like revenue and net profit goals to work backwards off of, it's very hard to set goals or affect any meaningful change. So, I mean, you have to have an honest assessment of, we want to grow to this value. We want to be doing a net of this. And then working backwards from that, I mean, I can look at all my fixed costs, all my overhead. I can see, are we going to need to hire? Are we going to need to cut people? Like, where are we at on terms of overhead? And that's going to kind of give us what we need to hit for gross. And then we can look at that and determine, do we need to lower that gross down, increase volume even higher to wash this overhead because we can't sell at 45. We need to sell twice as much at 35 with the same amount of headcount for overhead to hit that goal. Do we need to sell at a higher gross margin and target our ideal person better to hit? At that point, you can kind of play out all the different scenarios and see how you get there. But I think it all really starts with having a clear vision from the owner and the executive leadership team, and then kind of working it backwards with real numbers, not hopes and dreams, so to speak.
I mean, I would guess a lot of people set their yearly goal with a hope and a dream, right? Unfortunately, like,
Yeah.
hey, I want to do 8 million this year. Like, okay, well, you did 2 last year. Maybe we don't have the right path. Maybe we don't have the right people, right? I think that's another thing in the forecasting that you had mentioned is, do we need to hire? Who do we need to hire? How do you determine that? I think that capacity planning on your team is something that gets missed very often. How do you look at capacity planning?
Yeah. I mean, looking back to that org chart, I mean, if we have one rock star, Lauren, who's been with us almost since I started, and she does all the ordering, all the bookkeeping, she does a lot of stuff. But you couldn't double what we're doing with Lauren, because unless you trained and had a second one, like, she works constantly. So like, I can just tell from being there in the office and using common sense, like, okay, that position works great. This is its capacity. I'm like, okay, it's good for about 6 million in retail. And then you can, use that to extrapolate. And maybe the phone answer, you only need one for every 10 million, whatever it might be. Salespeople, you need to look and, okay, effectively, I think they can run 4 appointments a day, 4 to 5 days a week at their closing rate, their average ticket for each salesperson. I'm, good for 3 million in revenue. Beyond that, I need a really high performer that I can't count on. You just kind of got to look at the numbers, and, there's some positions that won't grow exponentially. I mean, really, you should only need one GM or one finance person or one operations person. Almost no matter how high you grow, it's more the support roles you need to plan for is what I found. Like, maybe now it's 2 shop assistants. Maybe now you need one person whose job is just driving around between jobs and dropping off materials. Once you get to a certain size, like, you just need to think about all those things. And then with that, like, oh, that's going to be a $30,000 truck and this hit to insurance. Oh, and we're bringing all these positions in-house instead of sub. Now our insurance burden is going to go up X percent. You got to be looking at it as the entire picture and all. Like, you can't just say adding $1 million in revenue is going to add $1 million in profit. I mean, that could push you past the lump where you need a whole nother person in the office at $100,000 a year. And then you need to decide, is that level of growth worth the headache of this for this extra profit? It's all honestly pretty clear with numbers, because you can play out whatever scenario you want on paper and look at it and see which one fits best, and then compare that against your real world, like your labor market, your growth potential, your marketing engine, and see what actually is kind of the path of least resistance to get the owner his goal, because you could run a $10 million company a lot of different ways. So if you have his goal, which is how much money and how much time he wants to put in, it gives you a lot more opportunity to actually kind of get that person's success, it feels like.
Yeah, definitely. Owners are visionaries too. I don't know if you guys run EOS or not. I look at a lot of things through the lens of EOS and the visionary and integrator. It seems like you're that integrator, or that you take that vision and put it into action and process and manage the numbers and make sure that the budgets are on track for everything and the process is in place and the people are in place. And that is how have you, like, for someone who is a visionary, what is the best way that you guys work together? Like, how do you push back on some of that vision? How do you how is your relationship in that regard?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's just you base it on trust. After a couple months of me just doing what needed done the most, I mean, we're to the point now where, I mean, we talk all the time. So I'll go over something and be like, okay, like, that's solid idea. Is it even making the priority list right now? Like, not going on the list. Oh, it is going on the list? Okay, I'll put it in the notepad. And kind of just knowing, like, this is an interesting thought he had. This is something he's, like, really wants to see done now, and knowing when his vision is like, this is the vision for my company and we need it done now, or this is just an idea I have. And then knowing when you really do, I mean, when it is actually going to be negatively impactful to the greater vision that was set out in advance, and not being shy to be like, hey, this does not align with, like, we made this whole plan. We're in the midst of executing this whole plan. We need to not take certain actions. I guess just being comfortable doing it is the biggest step. Visionaries won't have any problem sharing ideas, so you don't need to feel bad saying we don't have time for them. That's what I've found.
Not at all. There will always be another idea, I promise. They're coming. If you were to look into another contractor's business at this point, now that you've been through, you've learned all the lessons you've had, you know, in your experience, what would be your process of looking into another person's company and kind of analyzing what they could do, what they're doing well, and what they could improve upon?
Yeah. I mean, I would always kind of just start with the owner and the owner's level of involvement, and like, are they running everything? Do they have a strong team in place? Is it a growth mindset kind of company? Like, are they they're happy with $500,000, $1 million a year, owner profit, owner's doing good, it's been 10 years. Like, some don't, there's no real point in optimizing anything. They're at a good, he's happy with the amount he works for the amount he gets paid. So kind of getting what the actual goal is, because I get that question all the time. Like, well, what are the first 3 things you're going to come in and do? And it's like, it totally depends. Like, I can't. And it's like, what do you need? Some people don't really need anything. And some people, you show up and you're like, wow, you're still using notepads. Like, oh my, okay, we need to address this. I think just kind of looking at how the whole machine operates in terms of like owner's level of involvement, what their goal is. Do the people clearly have a purpose? Is there like a clear defined system of how things flow through the business from sales to production to invoicing? Just looking at the whole process, and kind of just level of documentation. Like, could you clearly bring someone on and train? That's the most I've seen in this industry, is just bringing on the amount of people you need to do when you're growing rapidly, and getting them effectively trained when no one has time to train them is probably one of the most challenging things. So the sooner a company gets on documenting and really having good processes for their onboarding and how they get people up to speed, game changer.
Yeah, definitely. And it's amazing how much every business is in the people business, right? Like, it really is. It doesn't matter. I know you have a background in restaurants and then came into, contracting and things like that. Like, the restaurant business or the people within the restaurant, right? Of course, you have the menu and you have the financials and you have the inventory management but it's still the people, and it's still getting, like you said, I think you said or mentioned it earlier, like front of house and back of house to communicate and be on the same page and go in the same direction. It all feels like we're all just, it's how effectively can we cast a vision, create a plan to execute on that vision, and then get the people in place and trained to execute on that vision. And then maybe after that, it's how do we look at it from a numbers perspective to make sure we're continuing to be on track? Does that sound like a good kind of summary of what we've talked about a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I always find myself working closely with some type of visionary person, because I mean, the numbers are all well and good. You can optimize all you want, but unless someone is setting a clear path and some kind of audacious goal for you to reach, I mean, I'm just doing the numbers. I'm not here to kind of set the path. If you have a direct problem you found with your vision, I'm happy to help solve it. But there's just different people have different strengths. So you really need that combination.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Awesome. This has been a great episode. Thanks for your time today. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.